But there you go. I've seen that clip a few times.
You have had weeks to go watch the challenge battles. Yeah. It's not an excuse anymore.
I mean, I only spoiled it by 2 seconds anyway, so it's probably not the end of the world. But yeah, definitely a lot of work to be coming out from Hammers on this one. Cloud9 should be coming in comfortable and confident, but is there anything that Cloud9 need to be cautious of here? Is there something that they maybe can slip up on, whether it's their own play or coming out from Hammers here, Sweetjay?
I think it's just weird drafts, like the Batiste Echo normally catches them off guard. You know, things like that they're not used to playing against. But if they get old school, his comfort pick like Vox, and also Joseph on a glaive and just high sustain and CC, then I think Cloud9 is going to do really well.
All right, we should be able to get the draft underway fairly soon, so let's start to focus a little bit further on that. Because both of these teams, especially in the last couple of games today, have been pulling out a little bit off the wall picks, more so Hammers than Cloud9. Obviously, Cloud9 playing that Adagio carry, which if it's any other team is a bit off the wall, but when it comes to Cloud9 specifically, it feels more like a comfort pick.
Yeah, well, it absolutely is a comfort pick for old school. Easily the best Adagio out there, but it's... You know, kind of they pick it up in situations where it makes sense, though. They don't just pick it up just because it's available type of thing. So we'll have to see where they decide to go with the Catherine and the Grace band. You know, do they want the Lyra? Do they want the Baron? Or do they want to go in a completely different direction, like by taking the Vox?
The Vox will be the first pickup here, but Lyra's still available. That could be an option for Hammers if they do want to go with that sustained support. Idris, though, immediately locked in.
Yeah, so that means are they going to ban now potentially Batiste, Koshka, or do they want to take Batiste, Koshka? They're actually ban away the Cruel from Joseph here. And now I think Cloud9 will probably ban away Koshka or Batiste if they don't want to deal with like a Batiste captain, for example.
Cloud9 really earning some respect with this Krill at this stage. We saw that banned a couple of times earlier on today against Cloud9 as well. Nobody wants to go against Joseph's Krill at this stage, but Lyra will be taken off the board now. Hammers got to decide where they want to go next.
And neither of the core healers going to be allowed through. So the captain role, I think, opens up a lot now with 3 of them already taken off the board. You still have Arden, you still have Finn, Batiste.
Can't believe Batiste is being played as captain so often.
Yeah, there are still plenty of options available, so it's not even something that Hammers necessarily have to even prioritize right now, but I have a feeling they're going to just maybe even take that Batiste here because it is something that can be flexed into either the jungle or the captain role.
Well, they may go for a glaive captain. That's something they have played in the past, so let's see if that's going to come out. They're going to actually take the Koshka, and now this leaves Cloud9. They usually know how to play against Koshka. They can probably play like a Lance, for example. Flicker Petal is actually really strong into Koshka, and like counters are really hard.
Cloud9 is the only team that has played Flicker thus far.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's like a really strong combination. And Flicker would even take down Idris as a melee. He'll get stuck in the slow and just be cutted down and exploded. So that's something that maybe we could see with some innovation here. Who knows? But they have other options like Lance, etc. would be good.
0.5% pick rate,
but the 100% win rate.
100% win rate. Tops in the league.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful statistic right there. Arcade going to get his comfort pick of that Koshka. We saw him using that earlier on today. Cloud9 still got 20 seconds to make his decision.
They can do Samuel Arden. It would be good because as long as they survive the early game against Koshka, they would be pretty fine.
I think my other favorite thing about that stat is a 4.3 KDA ratio on Flicker. But it's because obviously it's only been the one game thus far, but it is going to be the Batiste pickup here. And now for their final pick, do they want to run that Batiste as a captain, or will it be for I Love Joseph in the jungle?
Lance. So Koshka is completely countered at this point. And also Batiste counters Idris and Koshka to an extent because of their mobility. And Idris can't Shroud Step out of the Ordain because the Ordain isn't like a gauntlet. It's basically if you leave the space, you get stunned regardless of what ability you use. And that's why people still get stunned leaving it, etc. So really good draft by Cloud9. Hammers now need to probably draft something really aggressive like Fortress to counter the Batiste Lance, because Fortress is good into Batiste with Koshka, but only Fortress though, because everything else Batiste beats Koshka in.
Yeah, the only thing that can get you out of Ordained as an Idris, aside from a reflex block, is we'll ignore that point. But that's going to be, Captain Koshka from Hammers. Cloud9 has run it. Team Solo Mid has run it. And now
With the
They're in third
Celeste,
place, so I guess every team, just as we go down the scoreboard, is going to start picking up this Captain Koshka.
apparently so. We've got a lot of Captain Koshkas next week if that's the case, but you can still chain the stuns, right? Like with Celeste, off the back of the Koshka ultimate, you can chain your stun onto that as well, which is kind of similar to the Krull Koshka, although generally speaking it was the Krull ulting first, so I mean, how do you feel this one fits in, Sweetjane?
Well, it depends. If Hammers gets late game, Celeste scales off, Koshka Echo, they could take this away, but they don't really have that much of an early game. Idris is weak, Celeste is weak early game, so Cloud9 actually have a really nice chance to snowball, because Baptiste Lance is really strong against the competition. Like, that's going to win jungle against Koshka and Celeste.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe why they've strayed away from Koshka going into the jungle, because it's going to be such a difficult time. They're like, okay, let's try and put it in a captain role. I mean, Bacon, do you think that's something that can work here?
I mean, it's going to be incredibly difficult if it does. I would be surprised if the Captain Koshka works in this situation, but I was surprised the first time we saw it work. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm open to the idea, but in this specific scenario, I just don't think it's going to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think it will work, but I would love to be proved wrong. I desperately want to be proved wrong on that one. Let us know at home whether you are a big fan of this Captain Koshka composition coming out from the side of the Hammers. Cloud9 going with something a little bit more meta on their side and playing against that Koshka. We'll see how this one's going to pan out. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter to let us know who you're going to be supporting going on into this one. But it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off our grand finals. It's Cloud9 going up against the Hollywood Hammers.
Well, that's right, we're in the finals here, split to week 2 finals. Cloud9 up against Hammers. And Denominate, I'm looking at this draft at Hammers, and it feels pretty funky to me, but what do you think about it?
It definitely feels a little interesting. Interesting not really being maybe the best thing right now. It's very, very late game dominant, so the Captain Koshka won't really come online until level 6. If he can get a Yummy Catnip Frenzy down onto a reflex blockless target, it's going to be good. But then as the Echo comes out later in the game, and as he tanks up, he'll definitely be a bigger threat. And obviously the Celeste and Idris, as the game goes on, will be a threat all of their own.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs there, but if it all comes together, maybe it'll have an impact. Playboy Afro moving forward finds Gabe Bizzle hanging out, trying to hold down the brush there. Playboy Afro just uses Chorley Death and kind of pokes. Gabe Bizzle really not going to feel threatened though. This is more where maybe you find the squishy target in the jungle, but right now there's not much that he can do for his laner up there.
Definitely not, and he doesn't have, Playboy Afro doesn't have a Iron Guard contract to help starting all over sustains here, so as Gabe Bizzle gets level 2 and gets that Impale, we're definitely going to start to see some big damage come out of Old School and Gabe Bizzle up here in the lane, but this does give Afro and Archaic an opportunity. They might be able to rotate, but it looks like Archaic is going to back off, not wanting to try to push Baptiste in.
Yeah, Playboy Afro hanging out. Like you said, dude, not having the contract's a big deal. It's like, what does he actually add up here besides just like a visual distraction? Like he runs in and out. Old School's like, okay, I'll attack you once, but I'm really not scared of you. Starting all over is not feeling much of a help. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, again, he's not going to come on really until he gets that Yummy Catnip Frenzy, and as a Captain Koshka, that's going to be later than normal.
It feels like maybe he'd like to spend a little more time in the jungle if that was the case. But then at the same time, Archaic leveling a little bit slower would be a problem for them as well. So we'll see how it all plays out. Archaic level 3 hanging out next to the Elder Treant. Well, Joseph has made his own clear and starts to move down. Archaic probably pokes and moves back. He's going to core collapse. Playboy Afro is there. And this is not a poke and a move back. He is committed. Joseph, he's going to throw the Bad Mojos. He's empowered up, taking a bunch of damage. Gabe Bizzle, a double impale. The Githyan wall, buying time. Bad Mojo. Joseph healing up, sustaining. Playboy Afro, can he take him down? Yes, he can. First blood to the kitty cat. Meow right there. Old School forced back into lane from starting all over. Wouldn't let him drop down. Archaic, is he going to go down to Gabe? No, look at the calculations by these hammers. Oh my goodness. Can we just have a moment to appreciate how beautiful that was?
That was absolutely amazing. One more second, Gabe Bizzle would have had the Impale up. Might have been able to find an Impale to kill either Archaic or Afro.
Starting's going to go on Old School. Chakram connects. He moves forward. That was a little less hype than I thought it was. I thought Starting had a kill there.
Yeah, it's a little risky. Vox does have a bit of armor. The Chakram was down, so he does have to play it a little bit safe. Archaic and Afro did take the opportunity to recall to get their health up so that they can make sure they win another team fight out should one come up. And the starting just going to try to heal himself off this lane here. He obviously has the Book of Eulogies. Being a melee hero, he gets the additional health. And Old School looking to go that very popular Vox build that we have right now, the Poison Shiv first item, giving him that sustain.
Oh, he's not going to Breaking Point double monocle? Starting, root it up. Old School is getting some attacks, but Archaic and Playboy Afro are there. Gabe Vizzle realizes what's going on and just kind of moves back into a defensive position there. But it gives an opportunity for starting to go ahead and port home. And it looks like he probably just gets into Sorrow Blade right off the bat. That's pretty common. Looks like we may have lost Denominator for a moment, but yeah, what I was alluding to, I think we're going to see Sorrow Blade come out. It's a nice item for him as his first item. It's pretty core, pretty common. Down in the jungle, though, Archaic playing games. There's 3 of C9. They're going to ordain him and move forward. Archaic, he's going to get stunned into the wall, impaled up. They have the damage. They take him down. And I think Joseph cleaned that one up with a bad mojo there, and now starting moving down from the lane, throws the chakram, hits that Old School on the way out, but not on the way back. Shroud Step, trying to reposition moving. Who's going to get the treant? Playboy Afro, no. Starting got it. Ooh, 2-man get the wall, and just a little poke from range, and welcome back, Denominator.
Yeah, sorry about that. Not sure happened. I got moved up in a channel here somehow. The good fight coming here out of Cloud9, really Old School finding a lot of damage and sustain with that poison shiv we talked about, as well as those bad mojos coming out of Joseph are doing a lot of damage already, almost at that Shatterglass point of the game. And now Hammers are rotating up here, trying to find something, Humanist.
Yeah, they're looking for something, but not going to find anything. Archaic throwing out some charms, being a cheeky little Celeste here. You know, there are ways I see that Hammers could win this game, but it just doesn't feel like it. It really just doesn't feel like it to me. Because it would come down to C9 like making some mistakes, of which C9's just not really known for doing that.
Yeah, C9 is definitely one of the more consistent teams in North America, and they really show it week after week. Again, they've really only lost out to Team Solo Mid, so they definitely have some confidence coming up here into this game. Old School being on one of his favorite heroes for patch after patch, and here are Hammers.
Playboy Afro, level 5. We're getting closer and closer to that level 6. Nice core collapse landing from Archaic. Solar Storm comes through, taking C9 pretty low, but a Fearsome Shade is going to cancel this fight off. Playboy Afro moving back in and starting all over. Another Shroud Step forward. They can't get the damage out on target that they want. But, I mean, they have gap closing ability. They are very fast, and, I mean, maybe later on as Archaic starts to get a little more powered up with some of that crystal power and that Solar Storm connects a little bit harder, maybe they have a chance there. Right now, C9 trying to defend the turret here. Bad Mojo's connecting into the choke point. Joseph needs to kite back. Joseph taking good damage. They're going to put him down. Now they move forward. They should be able to find Archaic. Yes, they get him. Gabe Vizzle with that kill. Now Old School. Can they find this? Yes. Playboy Afro should be going down. Gabe Vizzle impale over the wall. He might have actually fallen to Playboy Afro there. And nice over the wall escape from Gabe Vizzle.
It looked like Afro might have actually clipped that last basic attack that really should have been able to kill Gabe Vizzle. Koshka does have a very high basic attack damage, as well as the empowerment from the Twirly Death would have very likely killed Gabe Vizzle. It is another kill going on over to Cloud9 though, and Gabe Vizzle makes that daring escape over the wall.
Starting all over, I don't know if you had mentioned this before, but he does have his Divergent Paths unlocked now. Building into Poison Shiv, a second item. He's well on his way to being a respectable damage threat here in this game. 79 last hits, 7 minutes into this game, so he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, and that's something that we've really always known for starting. He's very proficient on getting those last hits. He's really good at making sure he has the gold to complete his builds. But Cloud9 is really taking a lot of advantage here in the early game. We talked that, you know, the Hammers composition is really more late game designated than anything else. So it's going to be about if Hammers can get Celeste to that point that she can really be the big threat that she needs to be. Otherwise, this Baptiste, Lance, and Vox are really just going to be able to jump into that backline and really abuse the fact that Celeste is not whatsoever a tanky hero.
Old School almost face checking the brush, moving up into the lane, but he stops to take the mid there. Starting was ready, I think, just to attack him, throw that chakram, and go from there, but he's not going to get that opportunity. Starting pushes the wave up, and it's going to give them a moment, so it looks like he's probably going to take this opportunity to go down towards the jungle shop, purchase some items here for himself. What's he going to do? Just going to grab himself an infusion, a little weapon blade. And so this is one of those things. He's ready to fight. He's got a couple items. He just gets the infusion to kind of round out the damage, pick himself up a little armor as well. That's great if he pops that at any point if they get into a little fight here.
Yeah, and Hammer's looking to maybe get a little bit of damage down. C9 does fall back behind their turret. What Starting particularly needs to do here on this Idris, he needs to make sure he engages with Shroud Step so that he gets that barrier. And here we go, Humanist.
Yeah, he's taking a bunch of damage. Old School. He's going to actually get Shimmer struck, but then turns around with the wait for it, and he'll be able to take Starting down. This is Playboy Afro who's going to move backwards. Archaic as well. Playboy Afro has his ultimate, but wasn't going to be used through that fight. Honestly, if Joseph and Gabe see this Koshka, it's really hard for Koshka to do really anything.
Yeah, there's so much crowd control available on the side of Cloud9 here. Actually, it looks like they might be looking to have the damage here to come and get this turret taken down. If not,
he's stunned up and paled Ordain, and this should be a dead cat. Oh, no, they're actually... Playboy Afro's going to die, but they use that... No, he's not going to die. They use it to kill Archaic. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. Starting all over, he's battling in the jungle. He's going to take Old School down. Now, he's ordained up, but he doesn't care. He's like, okay, stun me, whatever. Impel me, I don't care. The chase is on. Bad Mojo is going to connect, and that'll be the straw that broke Starting all over his back. Maybe it's not. He's still going to go for it. He's Githian Wall, he's stunned up, ordained as well. He's going to block it and Shroud Step out of there. So the play, he has to use the block to get out of there, but no big deal.
Yeah, it was a good route actually coming out of Gabe Bizzle that kept Starting from making it onto Joseph. If he would have made it onto Joseph there after that first Ordain dropped, that very likely could have been another kill going on over to Hammers. And here we go, Humanist.
The YCP blocked off there by Gabe Bizzle himself.
YCP,
yeah, that was
I
definitely
like that.
A kill if that connected.
That's a pretty good one there, Humanist. So now Hammers is all up here in the lane, looking to push in this turret. Celeste and Idris should have the damage to do so.
Oh, yeah.
And that is unfortunate that Joseph wasn't here, and now Hammers are going in.
They got the damage in spades. They'll also take Old School down with him. Now, the Ordained onto Archaic. They're going to block off the Impale. The Fearsome Shade catches. They're going to stun Archaic up against the wall. Joseph trying to find the damage. They're moving forward. Archaic just kind of buying a little bit of time. He does find a two-man core collapse, but it'll go down in the end. Starting really couldn't hang around and fight there. He's too low HP with that area of effect damage coming out. And Playboy Afro, hey, it's not a defensive captain, to say the least.
No, it's definitely about landing that crowd control, and Starting is going to make it back here in time to save the lane, but man, Gabe Bizzle, great use of the Githian Wall this game thus far, making sure he's getting multiple stuns down with each one.
Oh, nice Shroud Step. It's still going to stun him up with that Ordained and Impale. The Githian Wall's coming through. So much lockdown. So much lockdown. It's kind of devastating Hammers at this point.
Yeah, and they're keeping the aggression up, not giving Starting the opportunity to recall here. This is incredibly smart out of Cloud9. The Fountain is available, however, for Playboy Afro and is not ready for Gabe Bizzle, so this fight should be pretty interesting if anybody goes for it.
Honestly, I didn't notice how well Old School was doing. He has Breaking Point completed with his own level 8 infusion active, his boots ready to activate. If they lock anybody down and Old School can get on target, he should be able to build up some Breaking Point stacks and put someone down pretty hard here. Yummy Catnip Frenzy blocked off. Bad Mojo is going to land. Wait for it. Comes through. Lands onto 3. Ordained is down. Starting, you're in a bad place. He tries to Shimmer Strike, but he's down. Solar Storm comes through from Archaic. Doesn't quite do the work that he would have liked, and that's Old School finding a double kill. Like we just said, Breaking Point stacking up for them there as they find that engage they were looking for.
Yeah, especially since there's not really any defense yet on Hammers. That's really how you have to go about countering this Breaking Point, and it's just not there. He's able to build up the stacks so easily, and this is the consistency that we were talking about in this Cloud9 team. That is now going to be the first turret going on over to Cloud9. A small gold lead in their advantage, but they've been doing a great job blocking out that Yummy Catnip Frenzy coming out of Playboy Afro, really making sure that Koshka doesn't have very much effect in these fights.
Yeah, they've been blocking it out, and you wonder, I mean, it sounded like our analysts were talking about it, that having the Echo was going to be a big deal for this Koshka, but we don't see it coming out anytime soon here.
No, he's not even close to building into it. He does have some vision in his pocket, as well as the Atlas Pauldron completed, so there is an opportunity where he could force out the block on the Yummy Catnip Frenzy and still get the Atlas down. But here we go, Humanist.
Yeah, starting finds Joseph, just jumps in, starts to burst him down. Respectable damage coming out of the Idris, but it seems like starting's having a hard time closing out. No, he jumps right into Joseph. He's found him this time. Ordained is there, but it doesn't matter. Archaic battling with Old School on the backside. Solar comes through. Old School staying alive, battling through this. Starting all over, though, finding the damage he needs, and a triple kill. He's going to take the Crystal Sentry as well. Starting all over. What a wonderful fight.
I'm kind of shocked that they're not going for the gold mine here. They do have an ace wave. They may be just looking to get the turret. The cooldowns are running pretty low here, though, so they have to worry about... Oh, War Treads is actually not available on Gabe Bizzle, so they don't have to worry about Gabe Bizzle coming up and chasing them down. They do pick up a clean kill there on the turret. Good choice by them. The gold miner is full and ripe for the taking if they find another fight. Maybe, good choice for them. They're capitalizing on that ace from the fight they had starting. Beautiful job getting onto that back line and getting Joseph down early on in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, that play only happens if starting all over is playing super aggressive and like actively trying to make that happen. I think it's really, really beautiful to watch. I think the lesson also learned from C9 is like you just got to keep starting off of Joseph. That's not something that can really happen. He can't just apply damage for free. They're trading up in the lane. Old School trying to trade here with starting. He's going to Shimmer Strike in. And they're block off the Fearsome Shade, but all the damage coming out. Archaic throws the Solar Storm as he tries to kite backwards. They've lost starting. They're going to lose Archaic. And Playboy Afro somewhere over in the jungle should go down as well. In a matter of time here, C9's just going to round him up like some sheepdogs, rounding up some cattle there, and take him down.
Yeah, again, this is the consistency of Cloud9, though. This is a team that has literally looked good all season long. They are that number 2 spot, which they're really showing it right now. And the win condition here is that starting all over safely makes it past Gabe Bizzle. If Gabe Bizzle is allowed to use the crowd control, it functions very similarly to that Catherine that we know to be just so good into Idris. And now this is Cloud9 taking down this Kraken. No Solar Storm available for the steal. Starting all over coming down, but can he find it?
Oh, that was
so close.
Quite close. Honestly, that was pretty close. Okay, Kraken captured for C9. C9 in the lead as far as kills, but slightly behind in net worth. About 16 minutes into this game here. How do we expect this to play out?
I mean, so far, just looking at the builds, I say this game has to go to Cloud9. Again, the Yummy Catnip Frenzy really either needed an Echo or a Null Wave to be efficient, and we don't have that. It's been blocked every single time, but starting all over is going in.
Yeah, one more time. They just ordain him, slap him with the Githian wall, and stun him up. He's disabled forever. He took a bunch of damage, but he's hanging around here. Just attacks and chakrams coming out. Yummy Catnip Frenzy is going to connect onto Joseph. Joseph being held in place. Solar Storm comes through. They've melted him down. Denominate. Hammers are on the chase here. Old School's going to kite back with the Sonic Zoom. They stun up starting and just take him down as Gabe that takes him down with a basic attack there at the end. Playboy Afro will be able to make it out of here. And Old School, Gabe Bizzle, they're not super healthy, but they're not going to feel threatened here. So they can hang around and take this turret down easy.
Yeah, it's going to be another free turret. They're likely going to back off, though. They're very low on health, and the turret's going to accelerate the death timers a little bit for Hammers. And obviously this Kraken being so injured, that's not worth them sticking around, risking an ace at this point. Old School is practically full build by the time he makes it down to the shop. He'll very likely pick up either Journey Boots or Halcyon Chargers, as well as finish up a fusion here for him, making sure he's ready for the next fight. We really have to see an Atlas Pauldron come out of starting here. He has really a great opportunity to get onto Old School, get that Atlas down, and that's what's going to help them make it through the fight. And we just haven't seen a good Atlas come down onto Old School yet.
No, we haven't. I mean, Playboy Afro has the delivery system, War Treads. He's going to move in here. Pouncy Fun, the Fearsome Shade comes out the other way. I don't think it's a big deal. They block off the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, and now Playboy Afro, he's in a weird place. He does apply the Atlas Pauldron. They try to get out. The Impale comes through from Gabe Bizzle. They leave Koshka for dead as they move backwards. Hammers. That was a bit of a misplay.
Bit of a misplay indeed. The Crucible was burned to block the Fearsome Shade, and then Afro went in looking for a stun, wasn't able to find it. The Ordain came down, and that was a terrible position for the Koshka to be in. Overall, not really one of the tankiest of heroes that we can put into this captain position, first of all. But again, the crowd control and the comboing of the crowd control coming out of Cloud9 has just been so beautiful. This is, by all means, Cloud9's game to win.
I'm going to agree with you on that point. Cloud9, they realize Crystal Century is moving back out, and they're kind of poking at it, but with starting an Archaic hanging around, they're going to think twice about that. The mids quickly taken down by Hammers. Will go their way over towards Archaic. Archaic kind of stalled out in his item progression, I think, being forced to infuse constantly. He's still sitting on tier 1 boots and just the Frostburn and Broken Myth, which, I mean, those two items were completed a while ago.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of gold that they need to find if they want Archaic to finish off another item. He is going to recall now and pick up that Eve, but he's not infused, and starting all over's infusion is burning out right now. And we still have some pretty healthy infusions for the side of Cloud9, and they actually are looking to pick up this Kraken Humanist.
This should be theirs, barring Archaic moving over, doing something pretty incredible. And so they're going to throw maybe a Solar Storm. They're moving in. I mean, this is going down pretty quick. They're here. I misread the timing on this. Wait for it. It's going to come through. Actually, it's going to go over with a bad mojo. Joseph claiming that. Starting all over. He's on to Joseph. That's his target. The Fearsome Shade catch is starting. They're going to be able to melt him down, can they? The Fountain keeps him alive. Playboy Afro doing a good job to at least apply the Atlas Pauldron. But they have lost Playboy Afro. Now Starting's on the run. Archaic as well. I mean, he can't even stand his ground and try to fight. He's stunned up against the wall. That does not feel right, man.
It doesn't, and losing 2 kills after obviously the Kraken going over to Cloud9 is not looking very good for Hammers at all. This is a full health Kraken now marching down the lane to the last 2 turrets, keeping Hammers in this game. So starting all over definitely has to be careful here. If he gives up an ace, then this is 100% a game going over to Cloud9.
Shouldn't this be? I mean, Z9, I'm gonna give him 100%.
It should be. It should be. Archaic is coming up. Afro is now up. They have an opportunity here to get down some damage, but man.
If there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way to throw it. Let's see if they can do it. Starting all over. He's caught in the Fearsome Shade. Oh no! Line up against the wall. The police are here. C9. They're gonna lock Hammers up and take game 1 here. An impressive showing. 22-9. Well, net worth was very close, and even C9 being behind it. Majority of this game, Hammers had a small net worth advantage. But they can't close out, and C9 sure can, though. Impressive stuff, man.
Yeah, and just now, 20 minutes in, too late, the Echo does come out on Koshka. We unfortunately didn't really see any good stuns come out of this Captain Koshka, something that's definitely difficult to play.
All right, well, let's see what's going to happen going into game 2. But to break this one down, let's go ahead and throw it over to our analyst desk.
Well, I mean, I feel a little bit bad at this stage because we kind of called out Archaic. We said he was the guy to be watching on that one, and he did not have a fun time that game. 2-10 final score. But on the other side, Old School, he was having the time of his life.
Yeah, I think maybe Cloud9 heard us say and said, all right, he's a player to watch. We'll keep our eyes on him and take care of things from here.
So this is how they win, is it? Alrighty then. But yeah, let's get into breaking down the game a little bit here. Like, what happened in the early game, Sweejo?
Yeah, they win a key fight in the early game, 2v2, which is good for Hammers. They got 2 kills ahead. But then at the 4-minute mark, Cloud9 just does such a clean 3-man rotation. They catch Celeste off, then they kill Starting, and then they kill Afro. It was an amazing play. Right here, they get and Gabe just landing his stuns and his roots. No chance, even with the Fountain, that Celeste would survive that. And then they get a kill on both of them here as well. I mean, Old School and Gabe just landing so many visibilities. Yeah, his impales, his gifting walls, just so on point. And then there's other fights I want to point out this as well, but really, really nice plays by Cloud9 and Hammers as well.
Yeah, just the amount of lockdown that came out from the side of Cloud9. There were fights later on, too, where it was the same thing. It's just all of these plays by Gabe are just gorgeous moves over the wall, gets out of harm's way, allows his teammate to finish off the kill. This is just, I mean, almost like a Gabe Vizzle show, essentially, these highlight reels. It's
and look at that. Old School dodged the chakram. He literally used Sonic Boom to dodge the chakram from Idris there. This was a good play by Hammers. They knew Old School's by himself. They get the first turret, and then they get a kill on Old School. And they're actually ahead at this point until Cloud9 then responds and gets their first turret. But it was really a back-and-forth game. But what it came down to was late-game team fights. And this is where Cloud9 just shines. You can tell they're just far superior in terms of their fight. And look at this. Watch how this fight progresses. The Ordain comes out, right? The Fearsome Shade comes out, and then he gets feared. Idris actually gets feared and stunned. And that's how they're able to lock him down and win that fight.
Yeah, we've talked about things like an Afterburn knocking someone out of an Ordain to get the stun. That was a Githian wall being used. Like, that's an extra wall. That's essentially, when someone gets Ordained, it's basically like an extra wall of terrain for the Lance to use the Githian wall onto. And there was multiple times throughout this game where Gabe Vizzle did create a stun by knocking someone that was Ordained into the edge of the Ordain.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is where Koshka, captain, although it sounds great, just falls off unless she gets like an echo, because Lance just completely was superior in terms of his ability to impale, stun, and zone, and etc.
Yeah, when you compare the amount of CC available to the two of them, she pales in comparison. But when you've also got to bear in mind, this is Gabe Vizzle playing Lance. Like, if any of you at home want to learn how to play Lance, just rewatch that game and just watch Gabe Vizzle, because that was a masterclass right there.
Yeah, that was a fight that was interesting. Starting was too aggressive. I know that he gets some plays while being aggressive. First off, Vox wasn't Atlas. Old School was not Atlas, so I don't know why he engaged. And he lost a lot of 1v1s versus Old School. Old School won every single 1v1 versus starting in terms of the fights here. And this is where Gabe, I think, was supposed to block this with his Crucible, I believe. And Joseph was stunned here. He gets blown up, but then Old School just carries this fight. This was a critical fight with Kraken. He gets 2 kills and carries the fight. It was amazing how well Old School and Gabe played in this 2v3 here.
Yeah, I mean, he was already up to 12 stacks when that first kill came through. So, you know, just being able to just keep those breaking point stacks up and continue to find that fight and not let them wear off, not let the damage drop was absolutely crucial. And, you know, again, right here, Fearsome Shade goes out, doesn't do the most amount of work, but then they just are able to follow up and chase down these kills. The Impales end up landing. The Githian walls provide stuns. There's just nothing that the side of Hammers could do once the fight deteriorates that far down.
And Gabe got a Shadow Glass, so that means Githian wall stuns has a max with the infusion. 1.6 second stun is the max duration. So he maxed the duration of a stun. And the roots, I believe, last around the same amount of time as 1.6. That's really wrong. That's a really long CC on top of Ordained stuns as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a powerful amount of CC that you're going to see coming out from the Lance, but it was going to be Cloud9 taking that one in the end. So now, as we look towards
the Githian wall for the Ordained stun,
I mean, like
just for good measure.
We've seen that combo coming through so many times. The draft already underway for this second game in this series. Vox going to be the first ban of this on Cloud9. Now going to be looking at their ban. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Catherine ban here if we look at Cloud9's history.
They'll probably ban Catherine or Grace here potentially, but I think with Cloud9 they normally ban Catherine on A and that B side there. But Catherine's also good on B side because you force the other team to ban Baptiste against you if they're both open. So let's see if Cloud9 is going to continue that or they're going to ban away the Grace. Hammers banning away Vox makes a lot of sense. Cloud9 has so much success on it. Old School has literally played it almost every single game. That he's got his hands on it and excelled at it. So Catherine Ban's going to come. I think Hammers here will either pick Baron or Grace, and Grace will be picked up here.
Yeah, Grace is definitely a smarter pick here because, again, Cloud9 hasn't really been playing the Baron much. So by taking the Grace, you're giving them even less of a reason to go after the Baron, which means it is going to be Lyra picked up. Now Cloud9, they may go ahead and look for a Baron ban here, but they also, I feel like they're going to leave it open. They've done this before already, is allow a team to take the Baron against them. It's something that Team Solo Mid has been doing, and Cloud9 started to do it as well. And
it's definitely, it's like a theme of the more confident teams definitely being able to do that and knowing how to deal with the Baron despite its incredibly high damage, but they do ban it away.
And let's see what... I think they may ban Koshka here and not give it over to Cloud9 because Joseph's Koshka is really, really strong. Or they may ban Crew again. But if you have Grace, it's good. So they're actually going to ban Adagio and not give Cloud9 the double heal competition that they ran against Immortals.
They've ran it incredibly well, and we all know how good Old School is on the Adagio. So the ban makes sense, but this is kind of the strength of Cloud9. Like, no other team in the Vainglory8 would have this Adagio banned against them. It does not happen. And so it leaves an additional pick open for Cloud9 that other teams normally wouldn't have the courtesy of being able to get.
So let's see if Cloud9's going to pick up the Koshko, or pick up the Black Feather or Idris here, because Idris is open. They actually go with Kestrel, so it's probably a weapon Kestrel, and that leaves Hammers with Glaive, most likely. Starting likes to play a lane Glaive into a Kestrel, more so than Idris or anything else. So they'll probably pick up the Glaive here, potentially a Koshka, and do a really aggressive dive composition that they played earlier. Or they may go with Samuel if they want to play the range game here. So let's see what they're going to end up. But I think Glaive will definitely be picked up by starting. Or he might go Ringo, but I think Glaive makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, he has been leaning towards Ringo as of late, but definitely Glaive. Fantastic into that Kestrel, so we'll see what he's going to opt to go for. Interesting that they go with that Kestrel while against a Grace as well. Obviously, Grace can deny a lot of that burst and can jump on the Kestrel if she ever gets out of position. But we'll see what the option is going to be. Obviously, Hammers using every second that they can to decide on this one. This is an important game for them. Yeah,
against a weapon Kestrel, Grace is not as good. She doesn't really counter because Kestrel can still active camo immediately due to the weapon perk of the active camo. A CP Kestrel, on the other hand, can't active camo if they've taken recent damage. So Grace could be okay, or weapon power Kestrel could be okay into Grace. They're going to pick Koshka here and are going to secure the Glaive or Ringo, and they're going to go with the Ringo here, and I think Cloud9 will probably go with Sky or Samuel, or maybe even Cruel or Rhyme. Yeah, Cruel comes out. Wow.
All right, well, Cruel's been banned against them basically every other game they've played today. They are going to be able to lock it in this time for Joseph, which means it will be the weapon-powered Kestrel going on towards the lane. How are we feeling about these compositions? Obviously, we've got starting all over on Ringo. This is what he used last week to take out Gangstars and did an amazing job 1v3ing on it and saving the game multiple times. Let's say, I mean, these are some of the highlights from him playing that Ringo last week as well.
Yeah, Ringo is a pick that not many teams are really running, but Cloud9 and Hammers, towards the end of Split 1, Cloud9 had actually picked it up a couple of times. Hammers, who's starting all over, is a player that we know loves this Ringo, is incredibly talented with it, so it's definitely not something that is completely unheard of in this matchup.
Yeah, it's certainly not, and we'll see whether he can live up to his reputation on this Ringo as we jump on into this final. There's a lot on the line for these two teams. Hammers right now looking to push themselves further up the standings, whereas Cloud9, they're looking to tie themselves up with TSM up at the top spot of the standings right now. They could be a single game away. We'll have to find out if that is going to be the case. Let us know who you're supporting coming into this one. Hashtag Vainglory8. Make sure to tag your team and let them know that they've got your support. But it's time to jump on into the second game of our North American final. It's the Hollywood Hammers going up against Cloud9.
Here we go, Hammers up against Cloud9. In game 2, this should be a pretty fun one. I'm really excited to see Old School on this Kestrel. I think he's going to have a pretty good knack for this hero.
He definitely should. Old School is a very mechanically gifted player, but what is Starting doing here, Humanist?
Dude, he's a Ringo. He's incredibly durable. He's just tanking up all of the damage. No big deal.
He's fast. I don't know about durable, but he is fast. He does make it out safe, and we actually have a pretty aggressive invade from Playboy Afro here.
The battle of the captains deep in the jungle here to nominate. Playboy Afro playing games. Gabe Vizzle sniffed it out early on, and Playboy Afro is getting the better of Gabe, but Gabe can just kind of heal up. If he does get in trouble, he can boot himself out of there. Joseph's going to be able to collapse now. The sigil comes out. They're on top of Playboy Afro. Playboy Afro just hits the benediction onto Gabe Vizzle and moves himself out of there. Playboy Afro still holding his own boots, though. And with this, I think it should allow Archaic to get in. Yeah, Archaic's making the rotation over now. Hammers have two deep in the jungle of C9. Joseph's going to be forced out. Joseph taking a bunch of damage. And they're just going to have to watch as their backs are going to be taken away. No mercy from Hammers.
Smart rotation out of Hammers here. Gabe Vizzle being so low, having no additional bonus health to really cause those Imperial Sigils to heal any additional health. So they really capitalized on the fact that Koshka can snowball the Kroll here in the early game. There's no chain stun ability, but here we go, Humanist.
My goodness. If the rest of Cloud9 did not just show up in the lane, I'm pretty sure they would just dive Old School and find the kill there. But yeah, nice aggression from Hammers as they move up in the lane. C9 will dissuade that aggression. We'll see what their move is going to be.
Yeah, C9 realistically has a huge opportunity here. The Krull obviously able to really lock down a target, both with a bit of crowd control in the slows as well as the stun, but also obviously reducing the incoming damage from that hero. And if Koshka dives a little too far, those glimmer shots will be able to blow her up. So Hammers has to play this really specific. They have to make sure that they are able to either delete Joseph or Old School early on in a fight, because in an extended exchange, this is almost always going to go over to Cloud9.
Well, Archaic's going to take the mids away from C9 one more time. Joseph definitely struggling here early on in the first few minutes. Denominate, can you talk to us about, I mean, how does the Ringo stack up against the Kestrel in the lane, just one-on-one that matchup?
One-on-one, Ringo should be able to do alright into Kestrel, especially if he fights around the cooldown of the Glimmer shots. The real big threat to Ringo is if Krull gets onto him, it's almost certainly going to be a death. Ringo fallen off of the meta pretty substantially just because a lot of the meta laners right now have some way to get out of that hard engage, you know, whether it be a Glaive Afterburn, you know, even the Jewel, the Rocket Leap, or even Vox's Sonic Zoom, and Ringo just doesn't have that. So this game is going to be about Afro getting good Holy Novas down onto Joseph to save Starting's life.
Yeah, I can see where the Holy Nova could be very disruptive to a Krull trying to engage in there, especially if Playboy Afro does have a good positioning in through these fights. Joseph, this is the first time he's had a nice, easy rotation through the jungle. He's going to be happy about that. We're about 10 seconds away from this jungle getting intense here. Starting already making the rotation down. He probably just wants to hit the shop immediately.
Yeah, he's definitely looking to come down for something here. It's going to be dangerous if he rotates back up the Cloud9 side, especially with that vision sitting there from Gabe.
Why is he doing this? What's the play?
I think he was waiting on his team to rotate up to try to find Old School, and they do find a bit of damage, but a good active camo.
The stun, Archaic, he jumps right over the top. He takes Old School down. I see what's happening now. Joseph, he wants to take Starting, but Joseph's going to go down as well. They've overstayed their welcome. Archaic takes 2. Cloud9 get none, and now it's going to be Starting all over Archaic and Playboy Afro, taking this turret down, potentially at least putting very good damage out onto it.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of damage down quick, and it does look like they're going to take a 4.5-minute turret with this Ringo and Koshka composition, really taking advantage of the early game that this composition has. If they can close it out early enough, Krull won't really have a lot of time to come on here.
You know, okay, obviously Starting all over a top Ringo player, very good Ringo player, but he's also, you know, one of his other top picks is the weapon Kestrel. And when you play a hero a lot, you know how to abuse its weaknesses. And I think that he was making the call there, like, let's just kill this Kestrel. As soon as we get on her, she's going to die. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, and again, just the huge amount of damage that can come out of Ringo Koshka in the early game, especially since Starting has this Sorrow Blade complete, and is having an absolutely amazing rotation down here to get that ambient gold. They really want to make sure that Starting can get to a full build as quick as possible, because if he's allowed to, then he's going to have the damage that he can really just, you know, get a couple attacks down and delete somebody from this game. And they have to be careful here if Joseph does decide to rotate up. Next time he gets the chance to shop, he will pick up that tension bow.
So he's going to grab the tension bow for himself, but he's level 5. I'm wondering, like, what's the point where C9 can think about fighting?
The real condition here is Krull gets a good stun. He's not level 6 though.
Holy Nova canceling it off. Joseph, he's going to get boosted up by the Sigil, trying to move forward. This Gabe holding the fountain, Starting all over, is hanging around. He's pretty low, but Archaic jumps right back in. Another Holy Nova! Holy Playboy! Holy Yummy Catnip Frenzy from downtown! Old School's going to get burned down there. Archaic goes in for another one, gets the ace. He'll pay for it with his life, but Hammers, they're just styling on Cloud9.
This is looking really good for Hammers right now. They may even be able to pick up this turret here. A couple more attacks.
Wow.
3rd turret down, 6.5 minutes in. The damage coming out of this Ringo and Koshka is absolutely huge. And look at the armor actually picked up by Archaic already here.
Archaic grabbing some armor. This is great for him. He's itemizing against C9 very efficiently. Of course, it's also in part due to their builds, their choices on how they're going to build this game. That makes it a little easy for him. This is crazy. Playboy Afro is still level 5. They're not even playing with Divine Intervention yet. and just kind of rolling down. I mean, even when we were it was like the push saw meta. It was rare that turrets were going down that fast. I mean, that was like a good push comp if that was happening. Hold on, that's gonna be holy deletion right there. Joseph wishes he could control alt that, or undo that one. Control Z. Gabe Vizzle getting blown up as well. I don't even know what to say here.
This is just absolutely disgusting damage coming out of Hammers here. This is a 4th turret now in 7.5 minutes, Humanist.
Yeah, they're going to jump for it. Joseph almost going down. Playboy Afro. He's going to move out here with his team. Starting all over, taking a bit of damage, but they have the Divine Intervention. They're going to catch him, but he blocks off with the one shot. Playboy Afro doing a phenomenal job for his team here, starting all over, trying to stutter step backwards. Archaic, he was rooted up there. He was trying to take the tree. Archaic, man, if he maybe had just been a little sooner, he could have done something for his team, but he has the move speed. He's trying to get out. If Hammers all get out here, this is insane, man. How is this happening? I don't believe my eyes here, Denomini.
This has been an absolutely intense game every second. Cloud9 looking to pick up this gold miner here that they might get the hopes of getting this Krull online. The double armor from Archaic here has really allowed him to tank up a lot of those glimmer shots from Old School. We talked about Koshka going in too far can get deleted from just the sheer damage Kestrel can put out. And Archaic really making it a point that he needs to survive in that front line and really gives starting all over the opportunity here to run away with this game.
Hammers have rolled the dumpster can out and just put Cloud9 in it this game.
Yeah,
this is just a thrashing of a game.
Yeah, this is looking really good for Hammers here, but again, if Cloud9 is able to get this Krull online, get him some tankiness built up with that Poison Shiv, there's definitely a huge opportunity for C9 here, but Hammers is not really looking to give that opportunity. This wave is pushed all the way up here, and here comes Archaic.
How's this going to play out? Joseph, he moves forward, but Joseph's getting blown up. Only one turret remains for Cloud9. Old School would love if they'd walk onto that trap there. It's not going to happen. Starting over, it's going to wind up the Hellfire Brew. They block off the From Hell's Heart. He's trying to kite back. He gets the healing that he needs to stay alive just a little bit longer. Joseph taking down, burning down. Archaic wants it. Gabe Vizzle's going to be able to take down Starting. They've traded 2 for 1 as they lose Old School. And how about the YCP coming through for the triple kill? The ace in the base of Cloud9. And how about them apples right there? Under 10 minutes. Hammers. They're going to be closing this game out in a dominant fashion.
All of Cloud9 is up. And we've seen Hammers throw a game earlier where they were in a win condition here.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to close this. I was wrong.
This is not looking good. Giving over 2 kills, but that is a exposed Vein Crystal now. But that's a bit of gold now going into Joseph's pocket. Not quite enough to finish what he needs. And now Hammers is 1 fight away from closing out game number 2. 10 minutes in, no saw. And there are no turrets left available for Cloud9. They are in a very risky position here.
Man. You know, if Saw liked to watch Vainglory, he'd be very impressed with this game. Having a talk with Ringo afterwards. A little pat on the back.
Yeah, the win condition here for Cloud9 is super perfect fight kind of scenario. I mean, Old School has to get good glimmer shots down onto the backline, onto starting all over, and Joseph needs to get a good stun down, a max length, maybe even a boomerang stun down onto somebody just to really lock somebody up, because they haven't had that opportunity. It's kind of surprising that the Krull-Lyra combination has really been snowballed so heavily this game. Now that Krull has Poison Shiv, though, he should have a bit more sustain in these fights, and here we go.
Arcane Passage, the Bright Bulwark down. They're immediately trying to take Starting doing a very good job to reposition with the own Arcane Passage. He's going straight for the Vein Crystal. Keep your eyes on this to dominate. They do get the Divine Intervention onto Archaic. He's still alive. They lose Playboy Afro, but the Hammers are on the Vein Crystal. And of course, that little kissy's going to come out of Starting as he drops the charms here. Having some fun. At the end, they're going to take Old School down just because, hey, why not? What a game coming out of Hammers. This is why they're so incredibly fun to watch. Like, at any moment, they just feel like they can just explode and just break another team. Well, okay. with that, we'll go ahead and throw it over the desk, guys. Break that one down for us.
Well, Hollywood Hammers, welcome to the Vainglory8. Where were you this entire time? If you're gonna give Cloud9 a loss, why not do it in 11 minutes? I mean, where did that come from?
I have no idea. This is the second time today now that starting all over has just been like, you know what? I'm going to go end this game while you guys fight. That's cool. But what an unbelievable showing. I mean, I feel like I looked away from the screen for like half a second, and then the game was like they were pushing in to almost end the game at the 9-minute mark. It was absolutely insane.
And I mean, like, we got to talk about Archaic. We were kind of like complaining about his performance in game 1. He showed up in game number 2 for sure.
Yeah, like I said, this is why you know, with Cruel shifting and the meta kind of balancing itself back, Koshka Grace was a combination that was extremely strong. They got the first rotation, and Joseph couldn't contest the Koshka and the Grace. And Grace is really good into Cruel. I don't know why they picked a Cruel into Grace, because he constantly got stunned if you were diving, and just too much CC. And on top of it, you have a Koshka stun as well. And because Koshka got such an early game lead, Old School was like 2 levels below Koshka, and it just did way too much burst damage with the tension bow. This is typical aftershock tension bow Ringo. Like, that's so much burst damage if you focus one person. And once Grace got Echo, there's no way Cloud9 could have came back. I mean, they were just way too ahead. On top of it, you have Echo just, you know, keeping starting and Koshka alive. That was just too much for Cloud9 to handle.
I can't remember the last time that I've seen 3 turrets destroyed sub 7 minutes and it wasn't a battle royal. Like, this is absolutely nuts. I mean, the fact that they were they were almost looking to end the game at the 9-minute mark against Cloud9. This is unheard of. I mean, with the only time we've seen a game this quick was at Worlds, when it was then Phoenix Armada just destroying everyone.
This is why at draft I was like, is Cloud9 going to take that Koshka, or they're going to give it over? And they decided that they could handle a Koshka, but they don't have Lance, they don't have Baptiste.
I think it's where they thought they could handle the Koshka, then decided that they could, because they clearly could not handle it in this game.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's like we forgot how strong Koshka was, right? Because no one's playing her recently. And, you know, this shows you, like, when the meta shifts, other heroes will come back and it will balance itself back out. So now we have to be very cautious in terms of what is going to make sense when it comes to draft now. But really, really excellent play by Hammers, getting so many turrets down. I wrote it down, 2 turrets in 555, a 3rd turret at 615 when they got an ace there, then a 4th turret at 730, and then finally a 940 last turret. That's pretty insane. That's like it's like faster than BR.
It's ridiculous right there. Like, we've got to now ask the question, like, do you have to ban Koshka going into this next game of the series? Like, or Cloud9, do you pick up Koshka here? Like, is Koshka, surely Koshka has to be a focus. After the performance like that, you have to look in the direction.
I don't know if it's something you have to ban. It's just you have to be able to be ready to play against it if you're not going to ban it away, because there are ways to deal with the Koshka. We've seen plenty of teams be able to beat the Koshka, but it's the Koshka Grace combo specifically that you can't let through. If a team gets the Grace, you know, they're Idris, Koshka, and Black Feather is kind of up there, but not quite to the same degree. But those two with Grace specifically, you just can't let through.
Okay, so, I mean, you'd expect Cloud9 to know how to play around that, though, right? Like, this is Cloud9 we're talking about. You expect the best out of them, but we'll see whether they can pull themselves together a little bit coming into game number 3. You've had 2 fairly one-sided games so far, one of them a lot quicker than the other one. Cloud9 going to start off with that typical Catherine ban.
Yeah, let's see if Hammer's going to ban away the Grace here. Like I said, Grace is so strong. Like, to counter her, you need to play Sky. You need to play heroes that can do so much damage right up and scale Broken Myth extremely fast. That's why Sky counters her so hard. Crow doesn't, unfortunately, because he gets CC'd really well and stuff like that. So Cloud9 will probably pick up the Grace here, and then Hammers will pick up Baptiste, Captain, Glaive. They may try to Glaive Baptiste combo that they always do. Koshka is now not good into this competition because you have Grace. So Koshka is not good against Grace, because once she gets that Echo and the ultimate, Koshka won't be able to burst someone down quick enough.
At the same time, Hammers have to be wary of a potential Koshka pick with the Grace already on the side of Cloud9. They are going to ban away the Adagio, make sure that double heal doesn't come through. But it's almost like there's too many things available for Cloud9 for you to really be able to ban against them.
And this is the thing with the current meta, right? We've been talking about how many heroes are available. There are 1,000 counter picks and comfort picks that can come in for each and every one of the teams here in the Vainglory8. So when you're going up against a team as experienced as Cloud9, there's always going to be so much available. And likewise with Hammers, when we see them picking up things like, you know, they were playing the Jewel earlier and it worked wonders for them.
Yeah, Jewel, Kestrel is another big pick for Hammers. Koshka is going to be banned here by Cloud9 despite having Grace. So that just shows how much respect they have for what Archaic just did to them. I can't say I blame them, even though they do have the Grace, but that does mean Kestrel going to come through. This has been one of Starting All Over's biggest picks throughout the season. It's last season was his fallback after the Ringo, so there's a lot of comfort there.
I feel like we need to point out the fact that Baron has made it all the way through to the final picks for Cloud9 here.
Baron will be really good in this competition because Baron is going to outscale and outrange the Kestrel. And can blow her up because a weapon Kestrel can't build that much armor, unfortunately. And you have Grace that's going to give Baron that that divine intervention, heal, that protection, and that heal. So Baron would be good if Old School can play it, but I'm not sure he can. So they may opt for the Ringo here potentially and do Cruel again.
They've played the Baron a couple of times this season to very mixed results, 50% win rate in 2 games. So
Glaive
definitely has, again, it's just not something that they're really putting an emphasis on as far as playing. But this Glaive...
Glaive Baptiste potentially here coming out. That's a lot of CC coming out that can get that Kestrel out of position. Ordain, the Fearsome Shade. That's a lot of CC that could work into the composition here. And then Hammers will probably pick Samuel potentially. That's what they like playing. That's like a meta competition that they played a lot in Challengers, etc. So Cloud9 may take away the Samuel, or they may go for the Baptiste option here. Oh, Baron!
Baron comes through. Old School going to bring that one to the table alongside this Glaive going into the jungle.
Old School on Baron.
Now does this then force the side of Hammers? I mean, Idris is available if they want to flex that Kestrel down into the jungle.
Yeah, but CP Kestrel is not going to be good into a Grace and a Glaive. No way.
Or they could go into the like a Crystal Blackfeather. I think it almost forces them into, because
they may do
that can deal with the Baron and something that can get past both the Grace and the Glaive.
They may do Crystal BF or Samuel. Their comfort is going to be Samuel, so that may show up, but Crystal BF might be their best option here potentially, or they can be risky and try Taka into this, but it's going to be risky. But yeah, they're going to go with Samuel here.
All right, so very long-range, poke-heavy composition coming out from Hammers, but quite the opposite coming out from Cloud9. They have a lot of burst damage with that Glaive and that Baron coming on through. Are we anticipating that this might be a double weapon power composition coming out from Cloud9 as well? Like, we've not really seen very many CP Glaives recently.
Yeah, that would be great because they're both squishy. They're not going to build... Kestrel probably won't build armor. She'll be 4-item Kestrel. So Glaive Tension Bow with Baron Tension Bow is going to work really well into that.
All right, well, we'll see. Obviously, double weapon power historically is usually a very early game composition. You got to roll that before they can build defense.
Grace and Glaive are a very early game duo as well, so I expect to see heavy pressure, actually probably in the lane, more so than even in the jungle, because Glaive is just so efficient at those lane ganks, but we could very well see them going into the jungle and looking for afterburns there too.
All right, well, we'll see if they can find those afterburns. We're going into the final game of the week. This has been a ridiculous week of Vainglory8. What's the expectation of this game, gentlemen? Are we going to see the same level of bloodbath that we've seen at so many games here in the Vainglory8 this week?
Yeah, I love Joseph's Glaive and Gabe on Grace. The double burst damage that's come out with Baron and a Glaive. I think Cloud9 is probably going to take this.
All right, well, we'll see if they're going to be able to. It's time to jump on into this one, though. It's time to get into the final game of this week of the Vainglory8 here in North America. Let us know who you're supporting on social media. Hashtag Vainglory8. Tag your team, either Cloud9 or the Hollywood Hammers. But it's time to jump into the final game for Hollywood Hammers up against Cloud9.
All right, let's go. Let's see who can win this game and claim first place here in Week 2 of Split 2. This is such an important match here. And starting all over, it goes back to the weapon Kestrel. No surprise there. But on the other side, you see Gay Vizzle gets the Grace. They get the Baron as well. And they're going to pair it up with the Glaive. That seems like a very powerful composition.
It is, and we already talked, well, at least we heard Sui earlier talking about how good Grace is into Kestrel. The long range of that Benediction can really make it difficult, especially in the early game, for starting to avoid that damage. This is going to be all about the siege and the mid-game for Hammers. If this old school Baron is allowed to come online, as well as Joseph being on this Glaive here in the jungle, obviously the Afterburn into Baron is going to be a devastating combination. So it's going to be a fun game for us here, Humanist.
Do we expect to see Joseph just go like the Tension Bow, Poison Shiv, defense, utility kind of build at this point? I mean,
he has options. So he can go with that kind of bursty, sustainy build, or he could go into a just an all-out burst Tension Bow Aftershock proc, which would give him the additional cooldown on that repositioning of the Afterburn, and that's going to make Old School's life a lot easier, because then he has a lot more ability to flex how he uses the Afterburn. He can use it to protect Old School, or he can use it to set up an engagement.
That feels like it would be pretty useful. Not only that, I mean, having more Afterburns, you knocking Archaic out of this Drifting Dark, stuff like that could be pretty helpful to him and his team. Currently, Gabe Bissell just hanging out here, and he's less useful once Playboy Afro is there. Playboy Afro can abuse the range that he has. Also, just if they ever need to trade damage, he just throws out that sigil, heals up his ally and himself. So right now, it's an opportunity. Old School goes back to base with Gabe Bissell, pick up a few items and make their way out. At this point, it's pretty quiet across the map.
Yeah, obviously the side of Cloud9 is either going to have to look for a good gank with the Glaive Grace combination, or wait for Old School to come online to really pick some fights. And it almost goes the same for Hammers. Samuel really in this early game is going to be a little bit of a struggle. He's going to be susceptible to this Glaive, and Joseph actually does steal away that Elder Treant there.
Yeah, Archaic trolled out a little bit. He committed Drifting Dark and Malice and Verdict, burned it down, and Joseph just takes it at the end. So a nice play by Joseph there.
Definitely a beautiful play, and as the game gets later, Samuel has some potential. He's actually putting down some vision for himself too, which is pretty smart. He has the potential to really be a nuisance for Glaive, but again, those Afterburns, if he's, like you mentioned, able to knock him out of the Drifting Dark, can be an absolutely huge advantage for the side of Cloud9. But look at the damage coming down on this turret already, even.
Serious damage. Old School used jump jets. I thought he was going to just try to find an attack on the starting, or maybe Archaic just to push them back, but he's just trying to grab those last hits as he is under turret, and it becomes a bit more difficult for him in that situation. The whole time, Joseph continues to rotate through the jungle, level 4 at this point. Let's see if someone can claim the last Elder Treant spawn here. Gave his little Benediction back up in the lane starting, was putting on a bit of damage on him. It looks like this is probably just going to be forfeit until the jungle will intensify, shop will spawn.
Yeah, definitely too risky for either team to try to take it. The time frame it's alive is still so short that it's difficult to, at least for one player, to clear it out at this point. It does look like Joseph is committing into, very likely, a Tension Bow. So maybe looking to really just be that bursty Glaive that we know and love. Starting all over, getting the speed boost from the Imperial Sigil. Gonna have to be careful though here, Humanist. Here comes Cloud9.
He has the trap down, but he's waiting to spring it. He wanted to squish your target. Joseph just walks through. He's like, nothing to see here, and I'll take the mid away from you. So how does it feel, Hammers, to have wasted your time?
Yeah, Twisted Stroke is absolutely an amazing ability for cleaning up a last hit, especially with the weapon Glaive. And that's something that we've seen Joseph really just be good at in general, is those last hits on his farm. And that's really an advantage that Cloud9 has here. It's putting him up about 500 gold here, 6 CS advantage in the jungle, as well as a couple CS here in the lane. Nothing major, no objectives taken, but here we go, Humanist.
Bright Bulwark down from Playboy Afro will cancel off the aggression coming out of Joseph. Joseph did use his boots there, Day. So this is a large cooldown for him. Now, yeah, he has Afterburn. Yeah, he can reposition someone, but it's really nice to have those boots up.
Yeah, it is nice to have those boots, especially for Glaive. Might get you in a little bit of a better position to get a good Afterburn, making sure you knock Starting All Over or Archaic into Baron. I almost wouldn't be shocked here if in the next couple levels we see Archaic pick up an infusion and really try to get some lane aggression down. That turret's already down to half health, and the siege potential out of Samuel and Kestrel is absolutely huge. Old School making a good rotation down to the backs, making sure he gets that ambient. Trying to.
They're gonna lose the turret
Baron
though.
on line, but man, here's the damage.
Maybe not. Starting. Really respecting Gabe Vizzle jumping in there. I feel like they could have committed, but they didn't have the vision down. Afterburn going to be blocked off. Starting, trying to move back, dropping incredibly low. Playboy Afro will be okay. Archaic as well. Probably Archaic grabs the mid and then moves back up to try and hold the lane here with Playboy Afro, because C9, they're going to move forward and they're going to get their own damage out onto this turret. They're doing pretty well at this point as well. Playboy Afro, he did go for just the Crucible first. What are your thoughts on Playboy Afro's itemization?
The Crucible is nice just because it makes your Imperial Sigil a lot more useful to the team. Obviously, if you let it burn down on all 3 members, it's not quite as effective, but you actually get a large burst on the entire team if you use the Imperial Sigil's proc right away. Starting all over, looking to get some poke damage down here. We'll almost maybe even see a War Treads come out second of Playboy Afro, really looking to get a lot of engaged potential. And here's the damage that we were talking about this siege.
Yeah, Starting had that level 5 infusion ticking, and they're able to take this out. Drifting Dark flies forward, and Archaic with the Malice and Verdict, they are able to pick that up. So Hammers strike first, not first blood, but first on the map. First objective blood.
Yeah, overall a pretty tame game as far as the kills go. A little disappointing coming off of those Hammers tempo games where it was just kills, but Hammers obviously taking the objective route there is going to put a little bit of additional gold in their pocket, but not a very huge lead for them. And now Starting has to be careful as Joseph is rotated up to the lane, and Glaive absolutely great at ganking.
Baron's also at the point, and you can see the splash damage connecting on a Starting. If he jump jets and actually hits Starting with the Sorrow Blade Tension Bow, I mean, the Kestrel's so squishy. He's, for all intents and purposes, if he's able to get on target, he's online there. But overall, obviously he's not. He wants to pick up some more weapon damage before he really can start to trade.
Yeah, he definitely needs the additional weapon damage to just ensure the kills. Here Old School comes now, looking to get some damage down, and here we go.
One shot, Starting's held in place. Iron Cannon's gonna come down. Joseph doesn't find the afterburn he wants. Playboy Afro will die mid-arcane passage. Divine intervention I can't talk on a Joseph. Old School jumps forward, trading with Starting there, and Starting's gonna go down. On his deathbed, he'll pick up his Tyrant's Monocle, so that's going to be a nice pickup for him. But in that trade, it was a huge win for C9. Archaic's here in the Drifting Dark. What's the play here? He's hanging around, but he has to respect that Joseph and Gabe could just jump on him and kill him. I'm kind of surprised that they actually didn't. They must have thought that they were going to take the turret.
Yeah, it was very, very close. The Glaive just has so much damage, especially with this Tension Bow. The Pierce really kind of getting through some of that defense that the turret naturally has. Overall, not really a big advantage for either team. We have a little positioning advantage with that first turret being down for Hammers, but Old School working into this third item on Baron is going to start to be a pretty big threat here very, very soon, and Hammers have to be careful about protecting this turret as best they can. Giving 900 gold over to Cloud9 here could really start to really swing the favor of this game entirely into Cloud9's favor.
Yeah, let's see how they're going to play it out here. Old School still playing quite defensively, waiting for his team to find that engage. There's their afterburn, Playboy Afro. They're trying to find the stun up on it. He war treads backwards, starting all over, trying to find the glimmer shots, throwing him through. One shot, not going to be connecting. It's a little bold to be throwing that out. And Old School finds the crit damage. Ion Cannon is going to clip Starting. Doesn't matter. Joseph is there. Cloud9, they take 2, they lose 1. They come out on top of this again. A bit of deja vu.
A little bit of deja vu, and now as these minions march, this should most certainly be a turret going on over to Cloud9. Afro, unable to pull the minions away, is now in a little bit of a dangerous position himself. He has to get out. Fortunately for him, Joseph does not have energy for an afterburn, and we have a pause here on the fold.
We do! Look at that. They probably were just like, wow. I think all our viewers, probably our casters, analysts, just need a moment to really absorb and process everything that's happened so far in this game. 10 minutes in. 4 kills for Cloud9 to the 2 of Hammers. Net worth not too far apart here. Cloud9 are in the at advantage at this point. Is it playing out how you kind of expected it, Denominator? Any surprises for you?
Not really. This composition that Cloud9 has set up for themselves is absolutely devastating amounts of damage. We see that Joseph is committing into a full weapon build here, so a lot of burst and sustain available to them. Again, Afro has worked into the War Tread, so there is still at 10 minutes no fountain available for the side of Hammers here, and so far it's been looking really good for Cloud9.
I think it's really interesting too. Like, okay, yeah, they're going double weapon, but we know they're starting. He's really not going to be building much armor, if any. I mean, he's got a light armor, but he can't really afford to be picking up much defense. He's a squishy little Kestrel. He needs to go all offense, right? So it actually works pretty well into him.
Yeah, and again, this is really the composition that Cloud9 has. They want to get to that backline and delete somebody immediately. The Afterburn's almost always going to be used to either put Archaic or starting in front of Old School on this Baron. It's basically just lining up a target to be deleted. I think the better target most times is going to be Archaic. He can't drop that active camo while taking damage like starting can. So I think you have to try to pick off Archaic. It's gonna be. I want to lean on Cloud9 this game, Humanist. I really just think they have a solid draft here.
Yeah, it does feel like Cloud9 probably takes this one home, but Hammers definitely have a chance. I think in that last engagement, it was actually Playboy Afro who got engaged on first, and then he tried to Arcane Passage, died mid Arcane Passage. That's always a hard one to watch.
It is indeed, and the Grace, again, we talked about at the beginning, Sui made a great point about the Grace just handles so well into a Kestrel. Specifically being able to heal up Glaive. Glaive dives in, takes a couple of those Glimmer shots. Gabe Vizzle's able to heal him up. That will reduce some of the incoming damage as well. So the Glaive is definitely a huge threat. Obviously the Baron as he comes on is going to be a very dominant late game carry. But this Grace Glaive combination is just really good into the entire lineup that Hammers has put together here.
Well, I mean, honestly, Denominator, we could continue to break this down. We run out of talking points at a certain point.
Yeah,
it's also catching us at the tail end of. It feels like a long cast of NA today.
Long cast of NA, as well as got to view some pretty awesome games in Europe this morning. So
don't exaggerate too much.
Hey, Salty Potatoes had a huge performance this week. They played really well all the way up until the end.
Yeah.
And being the team that came in with no points, they've made a name for themselves here in the Vainglory8.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see, especially the team come out of the Challenger Series and do really well for themselves. I'm looking up at the overall point standings right now to see.
Sounds like we have some connection issues are the reason for this pause here right now. Yeah, looking at the point standings, Salty Potatoes has actually come up into that number 6 spot, Humanist. So if they're able to keep it up here, they are in a position that qualifies them to go to the Unified Finals. And again, coming into the Vainglory8, picking up the place of a 0-point team. Looks like we may have lost Humanist there. All right, well, hopefully we'll be able to. We need Humanist. We need Humanist. I'm feeling very alone here, guys. Definitely hoping to get out of this pause here as soon as possible. The game has begun. Afro does clean up a couple of the CS here in the lane. Cloud9 looking to get some vision down of their own. Joseph cleaning out the jungle. And welcome back, Humanist. Nice to have you back in here with me today.
Wow, what a welcome. Of all the welcomes I could have had to nominate, that was really the best way to bring it back.
I mean, I try to make you feel welcome, try to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Well, it's all working. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I was getting like this serious echo. I couldn't even understand what was being said, and then I restarted the program there. So we're back. We're good to go. We're unpaused. Look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. An unpause coming through. We will be ending the match this day. It is official. Echo comes out for Gabe Vizzle. I heard this is a pretty good item for Grace, Denomine.
It's indeed a pretty good item. The additional damage reduction that it provides your team is absolutely huge, as well as obviously that burst heal, especially when paired with that crystal infusion. It's going to be available to Gabe Vizzle pretty frequently as this game goes on. Reaching level 8, he should have the overdrive on the benediction here very, very soon. And Old School has actually completed now the Tyrant's monocle as well on this Baron. So this is really where Baron starts to take off. And it looks like Gabe Vizzle getting caught out a little bit here.
Gabe walking back into the one shot there, just making sure Starting has good stats on his one shot, one kills. Old School doing quite a bit of damage, respectable damage, as you said. The Afterburn's there. Joseph, he knocks Starting back. Can he get him? Yes, he can. Wow. They just burn Starting down. Why am I saying wow? We said it. It's obvious. You get on top of the Kestrel, you kill the Kestrel. That's how easy it is. Divine Intervention comes out onto Joseph. Playboy Afro will die if they can find the Afterburn on him, but it's not going to happen. In fact, Goldmine are actually doing significant damage here, and C9 is like, all right, we had enough of that. We won the fight. Let's reset.
Yeah, and that fight particular really showed that the burst that Glaive brings to the table can just really set somebody up for a free kill on over to Baron, especially because, you know, the Samuel and Kestrel are not really going to prioritize a heavy amount of defense at any point of this game. They'll very likely commit to probably the Aegis onto Archaic if this game goes late enough. And I think Starting really just has to go that Aegis as well. The additional block with the crowd control that's available here on the side of Cloud9. I think if you're going to go a 4-item offensive build, you have to have that block.
Oh, man. I really don't know what he's going to do here, but defense, I don't know if defense is the answer.
I think
I'm kind of going to go against you on that one. Just say go full offense Starting. Let me channel my... Starting. I feel like he's going to have to be able to blow up a target. Like, if they get on him, he just feels like he's going to die.
Yeah, and you know, we're here at 13 minutes, no fountain yet. We have double Dragon Blood here on Playboy Afro, though, really prioritizing the healing that's available from the Imperial Sigils, and it's really dangerous because you don't always get that opportunity to heal your entire team with the Sigil. So a fountain has to come from Hammers here soon if they really want to start winning some of these fights.
You know, another thing that, you know, whenever I'm playing into a Lyra, I think about is that when they throw the Sigil, it's oftentimes very natural for the team to clump up on that Sigil to try and to take advantage of it. Like you said, it's hard to get it on your whole team, but oftentimes they try to. Well, Starting stunned up, big damage. Starting gets the active camo, tries to move back. Slumbering Husk looked like it's triggered off for Playboy after one shot. No, that's not coming through. Ion Cannon almost taking Starting out. They gotta run. They're on the run. Archaic. One more attack, he'd go down. Playboy Afro surely will. Starting all over will be able to pour it out. And C9, totally winning that fight.
Yeah, again, this composition is so devastating to squishy targets, and that's what in the entire side of Hammers is. Gabe Vizzle actually not even having to use that second Divine Intervention mid-fight. He uses it after the fight's over just to top his teammates up. So Divine Intervention will be coming up now in 20 seconds, and Echo is down for about 40. But the fountain is still available for Gabe Vizzle just because of that healing that comes out and the damage reduction. This is, as this game goes on, it's looking more and more clear that Cloud9 has just the easiest win conditions here, Humanist.
So are we just assuming Playboy Afro will not build a fountain in this game?
I mean, he has the Husk now. It's so Imperial Sigil based that it's scary, because again, with a double kiting composition from this Kestrel and Samuel, it's just hard to get Imperial Sigil down on the entire team. This is a pretty risky call, and here comes
Ion Cannon. Jump jets forward. Archaic gets melted. Old School single-handedly almost taking Archaic down. Joseph jumps in. They just delete Starling all over. They rip right through him. A couple attacks, a couple of crits coming out of Old School. They've taken to Cloud9. Just once they get on a target, they just destroy them. There's a scout trap hanging out here from Hammers. Playboy Afro may try to make some Net Toilette Godly-esque kind of play, but I think he moves in, eats a bit of damage, and just gonna move just as quickly right on out of there. It could very well be Cloud9 just closing the game out here.
If they can find another clean fight like they have, I found Archaic and starting all over particularly very easy in that last fight. Again, just the amount of squish that's on the team. We actually see starting is only at 3 items and is now committing into that block. So this is kind of a rough situation. We are now 16 minutes in the game with no fountain completed for Hammers.
Starting has fun positioning here on the top side of the map. Echo's on cooldown, 22 seconds. Thanks for letting us know, Gabe. I actually like that ping out there. I know, Starting reveals himself, and then active camos backwards. This is a benediction, and they see where Starting is. Now, Drifting Dark's down. He's going to start to kite backwards. Actually pulling them a little bit further back than he'd probably want to be. Look at Joseph coming from the south side. Can he find the afterburn in? It's going to be blocked off. Starting just barely avoiding the engage here, time and time again. They're gonna lose choke point turret, and Kraken's gonna be pretty low. So Cloud9, based on their playstyle for the last few games, I would say that, yeah, they just back on out of here. It's Crystal Sentry time.
It is Crystal Sentry time, looking to take it down to only 1 life remaining, as well as getting, around 225 gold into their pockets as well. Old School now has his 4th item complete and a weapon infusion, level 12 weapon infusion on Baron. This is a very good position for Cloud9 to be in. All they really have to do is find 1 fight. If they can kill Starting all over in Archaic, they can very likely just end the game here.
I think they definitely can, indeed. There's still a chance that Starting all over, if he wrapped around the backside and catches Old School by surprise, it could take him down, but it would take a huge element of surprise, of which they have not been able to achieve. Cloud9 moving forward as a unit. Flares coming out. They see Hammers. Gabe is waiting to engage. Old School's not, though. He just jumps right forward and puts the damage out here. Glimmer shots coming out of Starting. The Ion Cannon clips him. Joseph with the afterburn, forcing them back, splitting the team apart. Archaic moves out towards the east, where it's Starting, getting deleted out towards the west. Playboy Afro will use that Arcane Passage just to buy some time, and that's really all it's going to be, just buying just a touch of time. Boosts himself with a sigil. Crystal Sentry will put him down. Ace. Joseph gets the kill. An ace for Cloud9, and almost too easy.
Yeah, this Baron in the hands of Old School has been absolutely amazing. Look at the damage taking down these turrets. Going to take them down simultaneously. And unless a miracle happens here, this should be Cloud9 the winners in the 1st place position here for the split. And that indeed, as Starting drops, that is 100% Cloud9 taking game number 3. The consistency of this team is just absolutely amazing.
Denominate, one of the things that is so awesome at the highest level of competition, that we have Hammers beat Cloud9 like super fast. Like, they just dumpstered them the last game. And then this game, Cloud9 just come back and completely roll over Hammers. So a really good game. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I think that's pretty much all I got there. Again, the composition from Cloud9 just easily won out all of those trades. The weapon glaive, the burst, followed by the Baron jump jets was just an easy pickings on a kill, and Cloud9 cleans that game up incredibly quickly. Incredibly quickly indeed. So let's incredibly quickly throw it over to our analyst desk, guys. Break it down. It's been a long day for you.
It has been a pretty long day, but Cloud9 managing to survive the trials and tribulations and take a 2nd week in a row here in the North American Vainglory8. So congratulations to Cloud9, and a convincing victory to finish things out as well. They definitely looked like they had returned to form in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like you maybe just got caught off guard in game number 2 or didn't give the Hammers enough respect. But in game number 3, they were right back on track, looking dominant and looking like a team that is tied for 1st place as far as points are concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk more about that when we get to the point standings, but here's some replays of that series and of that game specifically, as Cloud9 started things off strong and managed to keep things going.
Yeah, Hammers did a good job getting the early turret at that 7-minute mark, but unfortunately, they weren't able to do much after that. They traded some kills, but mostly Cloud9 got ahead on those kills. It was interesting that Lyra did not build a fountain. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. I thought a fountain would still hopefully save a few of the members of Hammers, but to each their own, and Cloud9 just executed their comp brilliantly. This is what I mean, like Glaive was such a great draft because double tension bone to double squishy, they're not going to be able to build that much armor to counter it, and it just worked really, really well for Cloud9.
Yeah, the only time we've seen a captain not go for the fountain is when Rekt used to play this Lyra and would go for the Storm Crown first, but that was because they wanted to be harassing and poking and really punishing the opposing laner, and the fountain would then come out second. It always came out though, and Playboy Everett, he was going for like third or fourth item as in this build. It made very little sense, especially to go for the Slumbering Husk, which is an extremely greedy item. Like that's typically an item only for carries because it's only helps you. It does not benefit the rest of the team. It does give your heals a little bit more effect, and I guess the idea here was that he wanted to get as much bonus health as possible because there is 12% bonus health scaling on Lyra's heals. But the fountain is just so integral and can do so much more than just the sigils alone, no matter how much health you have.
Yeah, and then, like I said, I bet Joseph on Glaive, and his Glaive was phenomenal. He did miss one afterburn in lane, though. He afterburned a minion. That was pretty funny in the early game. But other than that, he played extremely well with the Glaive and the Baron Burst combo here. And Gabe, with those Divine Interventions, he saved them every time and did it early. And that's how you play Grace. You don't want to save it to your members are low. You want to do it as soon as they engage because they're going to take some damage regardless. So really, really nice plays by Gabe as well on that Grace.
One of the things people forget about the Divine Intervention is that damage reduction that you get from it as well. You can mitigate a lot of damage while they engage that fight, but that is going to be Cloud9 taking this series in the end. And I think that series, the MVP belongs to I Love Joseph, especially with that Glaive performance in that final game. He was definitely the driving force for his team, but also the fact that we talked about Archaic had to be the real driving force for the side of Hammers, and Joseph very much controlled his own jungle right there.
Yeah, he was able to find the early opportunities, and then just even into the mid to late game was initiating so many of these fights and allowing the kills to come through, and just taking smart decisions, smart pathing through the map, and really smart timing on when to go in versus when to wait